The average person checks their phone over 150 times a day. Let's be real, the numbers probably even higher for some of us. Those taps and swipes aren't just distractions. They are literally rewiring our attention spans, fragmenting how we experience time itself. Is this the kind of mental state we want to live in? Today, we are diving into the topic how technology changes the way we think. Remember those Nokia brick phones and its a legendary snake game? That was peak mobile tech for a while. It was simple text calls, and if you felt really fancy, maybe you changed the ringtone. But did anyone feel that same compulsive need to check their Nokia brick every 2 minutes? That keen boredom unless it was in your hand. Now, don't get me wrong, smartphones are incredible tools. But with that power came some unexpected side effects. That creeping feeling of being unable to sit with a single thought for more than a few minutes without that urge to check something. Or maybe it's that low level panic if you realize you have left your phone in the other room. That's not just FOMO. There is a name for that feeling, nomophobia. Our brains are so wired for constant stimulation now. The absence of it creates actual anxiety. This is not about blaming the tools themselves. Technology is incredible. It's about understanding that with power comes a responsibility. The responsibility to not let those tools totally rewire us into scattered, addicted, or less than human versions of ourselves.
Okay, so a lot of people, myself included, pride themselves on being great multitaskers. It feels efficient, but you're saying our brains are basically lying to us?
Absolutely. It's confronting lie, isn't it? We want to think we are superhuman, but the science is pretty clear. True multitasking, as in focusing with equal intensity on multiple tasks at once. Isn't it really how our brains work? Even I'm doing multitasking. Instead, we are super fast task switching. Think of computer trying to run a bunch of programs at once. Things might seem to be happening simultaneously. But behind the scene, the processor crazily switches between tasks. With too many things open, performance slow dramatically. Our brains work in a surprisingly similar way.
So, what's the downside? It feels like I get more done when I am juggling multiple things.
Well, talking about the downside of multitasking, that's where it gets tricky. Studies show that multitasking can lead to more errors, slower overall task completion, and ironically decreased productivity. That's the hidden cost of feeling busy but not actually making meaningful progress.
Alright, but why is this so hard to resist? Surely our brains are not that dumb.
Well, our brains are incredibly clever, but easily hijacked. Technology plays a huge role here. Apps, social media notifications, they are designed to be addictive. Easy buzz is a little reward hit. Over time, our brains get hooked on the distraction loop. So choosing folks to work over instant gratification feels surprisingly difficult, even if we know it's better long-term strategy.
Got it. So, what can we do to fight back?
The first step is awareness, which we are getting at right now. Next comes the concept of single tasking. Sounds incredibly basic, right? But think of it like building a muscle you wouldn't accept to lift a heavy weight on your first gym visit. Same goes with mental folks. Here is a challenge. Try a 20-minute block of your single tasking tomorrow. Phone on silent, no switching browser tabs, just you and one task. It probably will feel odd, even uncomfortable. That's your brain releveling against the loss of those little dopamines. But stick with it. And over time, those focus sessions get easier.
Okay, this next one hits close to home. I'm so used to just Googling anything I need to know. Why bother memorizing anything anymore?
It's a fair question actually. Technology has absolutely changed how we store and access information. The question is, are there downsides to this instant access to the world's knowledge?
Like we are all going to get dumber?
Not necessarily. But there is a difference between remembering facts and the kind of deeper understanding that comes with processing information and committing it to memory. Let's talk about navigation as an example.
GPS is the best. No more argument over those paper maps.
Absolutely, it's incredible convenient. But studies suggest that over reliance on GPS can actually weaken our ability to form mental maps on an area. We stop noticing landmarks and the relationships between the locations because our brains have outsourced that task.
So, is that a big deal? As long as I get to where I'm going.
It might be more than you think. The mental mapping ability is linked to our brains, especially reasoning skills, which plays a role in problem solving, not just getting around. Plus, there is a pure joy of knowing a place, not just relying on an algorithm to take you there.
Now that you mention it, I have totally lost my sense of direction.
See, you're getting it. Now, memorizing every fact isn't the goal, but the process of struggling to recall something, making connections between bits of knowledge that actually strengthens the neural pathways in your brain or in our brain. This is essential for critical thinking, not just for significant recall.
But that saves me so much mental energy.
It can. And that's where it gets tricky. We offload rote memorization to free up our mental space. The key is using that new space wisely.
Okay, this is heavy one. Social media. It seems like everyone either loves it or hates it, but can we talk about the mental health side?
Absolutely. And it's complex. Because these platforms aren't inherently bad, but they play into deep rooted human psychology in ways we don't always realize.
Oh man, the comparison trap is real. It's so easy to scroll and start feeling like your life is somehow less exciting, less successful.
Right. And the thing is, we logically know those posts don't represent reality. People sharing highlight reels, not the messy behind the scene, but our brains don't always think logically. Repeated exposure to idealization can feed insecurity.
I've also noticed it's like addictive. I'm aimlessly scroll way longer than I intend to.
That's the design. These platforms profit from our attentions. The like button is like a little validation hit, and the unpredictable rewards keep us hooked. Is it the same basic mechanism behind slot machines? Which is a bit alarming when you think about it.
Speaking of alarm, ever notice that vague anxiety after a social media session?
Yes, part of this is the echo chamber effect. Algorithms show us stuff that reinforces our existing beliefs, making it harder to understand different perspectives. This fuels polarization and that underlying feeling that the world is a hostile place, even if it's happening on the subconscious level.
Is there any good side to it?
Definitely. The key is mindful use. Think about how social media makes you feel. If it sparks creativity, maintains a genuine friendship, that's great. But if it leaves you depleted, angry, or comparing yourself negatively,
Wow, this is a lot to process. It seems like the impact of technology on our brains is way more complex than just whether it makes us smarter or dumber.
exactly. It's about those subtle shifts in how we think, interact, and perceive the world. The good news is, awareness is a huge first step. We don't have to be passive victims of technology, right?
So, any big takeaways before
few
we
things.
wrap up?
First, technology is a tool, and like any other powerful tools, it can be used for good or cause harm. It's up to us to be mindful and intentional users, not just blindly letting it change us without question. The second is, there is no going back. So instead of panicking or trying to fight progress, let's focus on fostering what I call tech wisdom. This means understanding both the benefits and those hidden side effects. And finally, let's keep the human in charge mindset. Don't let tech dictate your focus, your emotional state, or your values. Support ethical tech companies. Have those tough conversation about screen time with your family and make sure to prioritize those real life connections and experiences.
This has been incredibly helpful. How can listeners learn more?
There is only one simple way for that, by subscribing our Pixipace YouTube channel.